All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to unpack something, well, kind of fascinating and maybe even a little strange. We're talking about how our brains deal with all that internal pressure. It's the reason a really weird dream can somehow leave you feeling calm, or why a single joke can just instantly change the entire mood of a room. I mean, think about it. You ever wake up from some totally bizarre dream and instead of being confused, you feel peaceful? Or you're in a tense situation, someone cracks a joke, and poof, all that tension just vanishes. Well, it turns out these aren't just random little quirks of being human. Nope, not at all. What you're actually witnessing is your brain's own ingenious pressure release system kicking into high gear. It's like a built-in safety valve that takes all that messy internal chaos and transforms it into something, well, something clear and manageable. So let's dive right into this core idea, this pressure valve of the brain. We're going to break down the process that turns all that raw, internal tension into something we can actually handle, and maybe even find some meaning in. Okay, so there's a name for this whole thing. It's called the humanization of strain. And it's basically the way our brains take all that internal noise, anxiety, conflict, even those big, scary existential questions, and they repackage it. They turn it into symbolic forms like dreams, metaphors, or a killer punchline. Every single one of them is a different tool for letting off that steam. Now, to really wrap our heads around this, we're going to look at it from 3 different angles. It's like peeling an onion. First, we'll start with the mind, the psychological layer. Then, we'll dig into the brain's actual wiring. And finally, we're going to get into a really cool new theory about the physics of feeling itself. Yeah, you heard that right. All right, first up, the psychological reframing. This is all about how we create meaning out of stress, basically how we tell ourselves stories to cope. So from a psychological point of view, there are kind of 2 big ways to think about this. You've got the classic psychoanalytic take from folks like Freud, who called it sublimation. That's the idea that we channel our messy, unconscious urges into something productive or creative, like art or jokes. Then there's the more modern cognitive approach, which calls it reappraisal. And that's really just a fancy word for consciously changing the story you're telling yourself about a stressful event to change its meaning and its power over you.
Humor is the perfect example, right? A joke builds up this little bit of tension, sets an expectation, and then completely pulls the rug out from under you. That surprise, that incongruity, could easily be jarring, but our brain just flips the switch. It reframes it as playful, and bam, that potential stress instantly turns into amusement. It's a little magic trick the mind plays on itself.
Okay, so that's the story the mind tells. But what's actually happening in the hardware? Let's peel back that next layer and look at the brain's neural balancing act. How does the wiring itself pull this off? Well, it's basically a 3-step loop. Step 1, your amygdala, which is kind of like the brain's alarm system, detects a threat or some kind of conflict. It fires off a warning flare. Step 2, the prefrontal cortex, the CEO of your brain, jumps in. It looks at that emotional signal and tries to reinterpret it. This is reappraisal in action at the biological level. And step 3, if the CEO successfully reframes the situation, like when you get a joke, your brain's reward system floods you with feel-good chemicals like dopamine and endorphins. That's the feeling of relief. And that's the key here. This isn't just a thought process. It's a full-on biochemical event. Your brain is literally, physically redistributing energy across its networks to get back to a state of balance, to get back to what scientists call homeostasis. Okay, so we've done the mind, we've done the brain's wiring, now we get to the deepest and maybe the most mind-blowing layer. This is a newer theory that kind of ties it all together, called the Brain Kinematics Model, or BKM for short. And trust me, this is where things get really interesting. So in the BKM, strain isn't just a feeling or a chemical signal. Nope. It's described as an actual, physical, multidimensional wave. Think about that. It's an oscillatory disturbance moving through the physical tissue of your brain. It's not a metaphor, it's physics. And this is where the idea of humanization gets so powerful. In this model, humanization is the process of taking that chaotic, messy wave of energy and transforming it into a stable, resonant pattern. The analogy here is perfect. It's like tuning an old analog radio. You've got all that chaotic static, and you just gently turn the dial until, click, it resolves into clear music. So, from dreams to jokes, how does this unified model actually work? How does this idea of physical waves connect everything we've just talked about, from psychology to brain chemistry?
This table really lays it all out perfectly. You can see how each layer describes the same thing, just in a different language. Psychology calls strain a psychic conflict, and the relief, catharsis. Neuroscience calls it limbic arousal, and the relief, homeostasis. And the BKM, it calls strain a physical imbalance, and the relief, continuum balance. They're all just different ways of describing the exact same event. 3 perspectives, 1 phenomenon.
But here's where the BKM model gets really elegant. It suggests that all these different ways we release pressure, dreams, jokes, metaphors, they aren't just random. They actually exist on a gradient, a spectrum. It goes all the way from these deep subconscious releases to those really quick surface-level adjustments. And this chart maps that gradient out for us. Look at the deep end. That's where you find dream imagery. We're talking low, broad brainwave oscillations that give you that deep, cathartic discharge of strain. In the middle, you've got things like metaphoric thought, which helps us understand and integrate our feelings. And then, way up at the surface, you have humor and idioms. These are linked to high-frequency, synchronized brain activity, and they give you that instant feeling of balance.
You can even see this whole idea play out across history just by looking at humor. I mean, it starts with simple Greek irony, right? Then it evolves into sharp Roman satire used to critique society. Then you get the really deep, biting stuff from the Enlightenment like Swift. And now in the digital age, we have memes. They are the ultimate surface-level release valve. They're instant, they're crowdsourced, and they're a perfect tool for dealing with the constant, high-frequency strain of our modern world. There's a quote that just sums this up so perfectly. The pleasure of humor, the beauty of poetry, and the serenity after dreaming all mark one event, strain transforming into form. It really captures the whole idea, doesn't it? Whether it's a joke, a poem, or a dream, it's all the same beautiful process, chaos finding its form.
So here's the big takeaway, the thing to really remember. All of this stuff, dreams, jokes, metaphors, it's not just mental fluff. These are fundamental balancing acts. They are essential for our well-being. This isn't just about feeling better in the moment. It's a crucial process for our survival, for how we stay sane and centered in a chaotic world.
And that leaves us with a pretty cool question to think about for yourself. The next time you feel that internal pressure start to build up, just watch it. Get curious. Is it going to turn into a bizarre dream tonight? A clever new idea tomorrow? Or maybe just a perfectly timed, much-needed joke? What form will your strain take next?